Today's lesson is dining reservations. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
Hello, I'm Kiki. Hey, Roger, remember when I asked you out for dinner?
You did?
Right?
That's news to me.
Oh, well, I've been thinking of making some dinner reservations. Okay?
Indeed. And if you want to make dinner reservations, that means you kind of want to go to a special fancy restaurant, right?
Yeah, so I need to decide with you where we're going to go before I make these reservations. So today we're talking about dining reservations. And what is a reservation?
Reservation is when you reserve something. So when you reserve something, you just kind of make sure that you're going to get it. And you send your information to a hotel or a restaurant ahead of time to make a reservation so that when you get there, you'll be guaranteed of a place or a room in a hotel or a table in a restaurant. You won't have to wait in line or be told, sorry, if you don't have a reservation, you cannot eat here tonight. Try again maybe 3 or 4 months later.
Okay, so because our schedules are really full, so you and I, we have to decide on a day that we're going to have dinner together. And you need to let me know ahead of time so that way I can call them and make the reservation because this restaurant is really busy.
Very popular. Lots of people want to go there. So yeah, you have to have a reservation.
Right. So we got to do it in advance because I don't want to show up and not have a table or else that would be embarrassing for me because I asked you to have dinner with me. And if we show up and there's no table, we're going to have to maybe go and eat 便当.
Yeah, or 牛肉面. That doesn't sound too bad either. But in any case, that's what this conversation is all about today. It's not about our dinner reservation, but it's about a reservation that Rita is making at a popular restaurant in New York. This restaurant is called the Iron Grill. And she's going to New York and she wants to make a reservation at this restaurant. So let's listen to her conversation with the restaurant host right now.
Dining reservations. 1. Making a reservation. Rita calls a popular restaurant to make a reservation. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling Iron Grill. How may I assist you?
Hi, I'm planning a trip to New York with some friends, and we're eager to dine at your restaurant. Would it be possible to get a table for 5 on Friday the 20th at 7 o'clock?
Let me check on that for you. Yes, we have a table available at that time.
Wonderful. Do you require a deposit for a reservation?
Yes, there is a $20 deposit to discourage no-shows.
That's fine. Lastly, one of my friends has a nut allergy, so can you accommodate that?
Absolutely. I'll make a note of that in your reservation.
大家好，第一部分我们来看单字 discourage， 它是动词，表示阻止、打消点点点的念头，或是使心灰意冷。例如 Those rules were set in place to discourage bad behavior. 设立那些规定是要阻止不当行为。又或者是 Don't let anyone discourage you from following your dreams. 别让任何人阻止你追随你的梦想。另外补充 discourage 的形容词 discouraged, D-I-S-C-O-U-R-A-G-E-D, discouraged. 它表示灰心的或是沮丧的。例如 Rita was discouraged because she failed the job interview again. Rita 因为又没有通过面试而感到灰心。又或者说Ted felt discouraged when his painting did not win a prize in the art competition. Ted 因为其画作未能在美术竞赛中得奖而感到沮丧。接下来我们来介绍名词 no-show， 它的意思是未按预约到场或是出席的人，爽约者。例如 If you reserve the table but are no-show too many times, you will be blacklisted. 如果你多次定位但都没有出现的话，你就会被列入黑名单。又或者是No one wants to hang out with Peter because he is a notorious no-show. 没有人想跟 Peter 一起出去玩，因为他众人皆知会爽约。接着看到 absolutely， 这个副词的意思是没错、确实的、绝对的或是完全的。例如 This cake is horrible. Absolutely. 这个蛋糕真的是糟透了，真的。又或者说 I'm absolutely starving. I haven't eaten since this morning. 我真的快要饿死了。我从今天早上就什么也没吃。另外，去掉这个字尾的 ly 就会是形容词 absolute， 意思是绝对的、肯定的或是十足的。举例来说， My parents were not very strict and gave me absolute freedom to do what I wanted. 我的父母并不严格，他们给我绝对的自由去做我想做的事。也可以说 Ross did his absolute best during the soccer game. Ross 在足球赛中尽了全力。
Okay, so a restaurant host is someone that will stand at the door usually and welcome guests as they come through the door. And they are the first person that people will talk to if they want to get a table, or sometimes the restaurant host will ask if you have a reservation. Now, our first dialogue is about making a reservation. So Rita will call the restaurant and talk to the restaurant host.
Exactly. So again, she calls this restaurant to make a reservation. The host answers the phone and says, "Good afternoon. Thank you for calling Iron Grill. How may I assist you? What can I do for you? How may I help you?"
Okay, Rita says, "Hi, I'm planning a trip to New York with some friends, and we're eager to dine at your restaurant. Would it be possible to get a table for 5 on Friday the 20th at 7 o'clock? Okay, so it's very clear to us that Rita and her friends, they don't live in New York. So they are visiting, they are tourists and they're travelers, but they've heard of this restaurant called the Iron Grill, and they're they really want to try it because this is a famous restaurant. So she told the restaurant host that they are eager to dine or to eat at their restaurant. And she asks, would it be possible? Is it possible to get a table for 5? And she gives the date, which is Friday the 20th at 7 o'clock.
So you have to provide that information. Of course, when you call a restaurant, you could say, "Yes, I'd like to make a reservation for 5 people on the 20th at 7 o'clock. Is there a table available?" And again, that's what Rita wants to know. She's going to the Big Apple with some friends, and they want to eat at this particular restaurant. And here's what the host says. Let me check on that for you. So the host probably has to look through the reservations ledger or to go online or go on the computer and see if there's an available table at that time. And the host says, yes, we have a table available at that time. There is a table that you can use, and we can make that reservation for you.
Well, Rita is very happy about it. So she replies, wonderful. So she's very pleased with this answer. And of course, it's exciting to know that the restaurant you really, really want to try has a table for you. So she asks, do you require a deposit for a reservation? So do you need me to place some money or a deposit to keep my reservation? So usually a deposit is a small amount of money that you will pay in advance to make sure that you can keep something. So usually you will have a deposit to buy a house or a deposit to buy a car. And it is basically to let the seller know that I'm serious about making this purchase.
Indeed, that reminds me of when I used to work at a motel many years ago. People would make reservations for a room, and if you wanted to guarantee the reservation, then they would provide a credit card number. So if they did not show up, you could still charge them for the room. Otherwise, people made a reservation, and if they did not arrive before a certain time, then the room would be given to somebody else.
Oh, and sometimes when somebody takes a deposit, it could also be the amount of money that they're keeping first, just in case they mess up their hotel room. So the hotel operators, they will have this money do extra cleaning, or if they have to fix something, then your deposit might be taken or be kept by the operator.
Right. That's why it's some motels or hotels or whatever prefer a credit card instead of people paying cash because that way they can charge you later for any damage you've caused to the room. And in this particular case, Rita wants to know if they require a deposit for a reservation at this particular restaurant in New York. And the host here says yes. There's a $20 deposit to discourage no-shows. Wow, that sounds kind of low for New York City. Only $20? I would imagine the deposit to be like $100 or maybe even $200 for a restaurant in New York. But that's all they require here, a $20 deposit. And they require this deposit to discourage no-shows. So if you discourage something or someone, you just kind of tell them not to do something. You cause them to change their mind. And, of course, you might want to cause them to lose their confidence or to lose their enthusiasm. I feel so discouraged after losing that race. I don't want to be a track star anymore. I don't want to lose anymore. I'm discouraged. But in this particular case, they just don't want people to not show up. They still want you to show up because if you don't show up, then you lose that money.
Right. So the opposite of discourage, of course, is encourage. So in a way, this deposit is to encourage people to make sure they come to their reservation or they don't just not come. Or in this case, we have the word no-show. Okay, so a no-show is basically a way to describe people not coming to something that they have promised. So let's say you had a reservation to go to the dentist. You have a dentist appointment. And if you didn't show up, then the dentist will say, oh, they're a no-show to their appointment.
Exactly. Or if you remember the movie Jurassic Park, they were going out to look at the dinosaurs and, oh, here's a dinosaur here, but hey, it's not there. It's a no-show. It did not show up. And so they, of course, discovered the dinosaur later on in the movie. But, of course, at the beginning, it was a no-show. It did not show up. It wasn't there when it was supposed to be. And in this case, they don't want people to not show up at the restaurant. They want to discourage no-shows by requiring that $20 deposit. Rita says that's fine. Lastly, the last thing I want to ask you, this particular question is, one of my friends has a nut allergy. Can you accommodate that? Can you handle that? Can you prepare food that does not have any nuts in it? Sometimes people are allergic to peanuts or other kinds of nuts, and if they consume a product from those nuts by accident, they might have a strong allergic reaction and they might even require hospital care.
And usually when people have allergies to different types of food, if you call in advance and talk to the people at the restaurant, usually they will be able to accommodate or to help you out. And sometimes if you know you're going to a restaurant in advance, it would be nice to call early on and find out if the chef or the kitchen can help prepare different types of food for you instead of showing up and then saying, oh, I have a nut allergy or I have a seafood allergy. And then that would make things very awkward for the waiter or the chef if they don't have anything for you. So if you have a food allergy, it's always a good idea to let the restaurant know ahead so they can make different types of preparations for you. Now, at the end, the restaurant host says, absolutely. Of course, we can help accommodate or we can help you out or your friend out with the nut allergy. I'll make note of that in your reservation. So on your reservation, on this date that you want to reserve, I will make a special note to say there will be one party member or one guest that has a food allergy, and in this case, a nut allergy.
Indeed. And again, they'll probably put the reservation in a ledger or on the computer or whatever, and that information will be there about one of the customers who has an allergy to nuts. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first conversation for today. Let's go on now to part 2, and we're talking about changing the reservation. You might need to do this sometimes when something happens and you need to change the time or the day. Yeah, you need to call that restaurant and make some last-minute change to your reservation. Let's listen to Rita and the host's conversation.
2. Changing the reservation. Due to a last-minute change of plans, Rita calls the restaurant to request a reservation change. Thank you for calling Iron Grill. How can I help you?
Hi, my name's Rita Morgan, and I recently made a reservation for Friday the 20th at 7 o'clock. Our plans changed a bit, so I was wondering, could we move the reservation to Saturday?
Let me check. I'm sorry, we're fully booked on Saturday, but we could accommodate you on Sunday at 7. Would that be all right?
Yes, in fact, Sunday would be the next best option. Will this affect the reservation deposit?
No, your deposit remains valid for the new date. We'll update the reservation accordingly.
Great. Thank you so much for your help.
第二部分先介绍 valid 这个单字，它是形容词，意思是有效的、合理的或是有根据的。例如 Tom's club membership was no longer valid, so he wasn't able to get inside. Tom 的俱乐部会员不再有效，因此他不得入内。又或者说 Only those with a valid reason to be in the emergency room were permitted entrance. 只有理由正当的人才能进入急诊室。另外，在 valid 的字尾加上 ity 的话，就会变成名词 validity， 它有有效、可信度或是合理性的意思。举例来说 The validity of this contract no longer exists. 此合约的效力不再存在。又或者说 The scientist questioned the validity of the theory. 该科学家质疑那个理论的可信度。最后介绍 accordingly 这个副词，指的是相应的或是照着。例如 This concert will take place outdoors, so be sure to plan for the weather accordingly. 这场演唱会将在户外举行，因此请务必按天气状况做相应准备。又或者说 Cindy is going to be promoted next month, and her salary will increase accordingly. Cindy 将在下个月升迁，她的薪水也将随之增加。
Okay, so this conversation is about changing the reservation. Now, we know that Rita and her friends are visiting the Big Apple or New York City. So when you're traveling, of course, sometimes you're bound to have some last-minute changes. And in this case, they have a last-minute change of plans, so Rita needs to call the restaurant to request a reservation change. She needs to call the restaurant host to find out if they can make some changes to reservations for dinner on Friday.
Okay, so they've had a last-minute change, and Rita calls the restaurant, and the host answers the phone. Thank you for calling Iron Grill. How can I help you? Indeed, when you work at a restaurant and you answer the phone, you need to be polite, and usually you need to identify the restaurant or the name of the business so that the person calling knows they've reached the right place. How can I help you? What can I do for you? Rita says, Hi, my name's Rita Morgan, and I recently made a reservation for Friday the 20th at 7 o'clock. Indeed, we did hear about her reservation, which she made in conversation number 1. She made that reservation, and the reservation was for Friday the 20th, and it was supposed to be at 7 o'clock. But she says, our plans changed a bit, so I was wondering, could we move the reservation to Saturday? Could we change it from Friday to Saturday, which would be the 21st?
Okay, so the restaurant host says, let me check. So we know that the Iron Grill is a very popular restaurant, so they might not have tables available every single day. So the restaurant host has to check. Let me take a look at the reservation book or the ledger. And the restaurant host takes a look and says, I'm sorry, we're fully booked on Saturday. So this Saturday, we are all full. There have been many reservations. We're all booked out. Can't make any more reservations. There are no empty tables for you. But we could accommodate you on Sunday at 7. So since we're booked on Saturday, maybe we could help you out. Maybe you can come in on Sunday at 7 instead. instead. So they are able to accommodate them on Sunday instead of Saturday. And the restaurant host asks Rita, would that be all right?
And Rita replies, yes, in fact, Sunday would be the next best option. Of course, ideally, we'd like to have dinner on Saturday, but Saturday is a weekend and it's going to be busy there, so I understand that we cannot change our reservation to that time. But Sunday is our next best choice. It's our next best option. And will this affect the reservation deposit? So remember, she already made a $20 deposit on the reservation. So by changing the date, will that affect or change the deposit? Will I have to pay more? Will I have to pay less or whatever? Or will it be the same?
And the restaurant host replies, no, your deposit remains valid for the new date. So your deposit or the money that you have paid us already will remain the same or remain in effect. When something is valid, it means something that is effective. So you need to have a valid passport when you travel, a passport that hasn't passed its expiry date yet. And in this case, the deposit has remained valid. It is still effective for your new booking date. And the host says, we'll update the reservation accordingly. So what is accordingly, Roger?
According to what you're supposed to do, basically. So if you need to change the reservation, then we will do it appropriately to the circumstances, okay? So yes, indeed, we'll update the reservation according to how you want it in a way in which you want it. For example, maybe as an example for the word accordingly, you could say, you are a prisoner of war, so you will be treated accordingly. You will be treated as if you are a prisoner of war. Okay, so in this particular case, though, they'll update the reservation according to how Rita wants it changed, and the $20 deposit will be effective for the new reservation.
And that comes to the end of our dialogue today. Let's listen to our lovely Chinese teacher, Henny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在课文第一部分的对话里， Rita 打电话给一家热门餐厅预约，她问餐厅接待员预约是否需要支付定金。那对方回答，是的，需要$20的定金，以防止未如约出席。我们这边先补充一下 no show 是名词，它表示未按预约到场或出席的人，或者是爽约的人。那文中它还有用到动词 discourage 来表达阻止、打消什么什么的念头。那这个单字其实还可以表达使心灰意冷。我们就来补充一下它的字首字根。首先看到 cour 或者是 cord 这一类字根是源自于拉丁文，表示心、心思或勇气。像 courage 勇气，它就是由字根 cour 再加上名词字尾 age 而来的。好，那接着我们在 courage 前面加上字首 dis 得到这个字 discourage。那这个字首 dis 它有分离、否定、剥夺等等的否定意思。当一个人的勇气被剥夺，他的勇气跟他分离了，应该很容易联想到 discourage 它有使泄气或者是使心灰意冷还有阻止的意思。我们顺便补充几个有这一类字根的单字。第一个是 cordial， 它的字根 cord 表示心，ial 是形容词字尾，那合在一起 cordial 是用来形容真挚的、热忱的或者是友好的。第二个补充的是 discord， 它的字首 dis 表示相反，字根 cord 表示心思。那么心思不一致，应该很容易联想到 discord， 它有这种争吵啊、不和啊、看法不一致、缺乏共识的意思了。好，那么在课文第二部分的对话里， Rita 打电话给餐厅更改预定，她问餐厅接待员这会不会影响到预定的定金。那么对方说 No, your deposit remains valid for the new date. 不会，您的定金仍然适用于新的日期。那这边他用到形容词 valid 是形容有效的，我们也来学习它的字根。VAIL 或者是 VAL 这一类字根表示强壮的啊、有力的或是有价值的。那在 valid 这个字当中 VAL 表示有力的， 那么 ID 是形容词字尾，我们可以借由在法律上是有利的去联想到 valid 表示合法的有效的，那它还可以形容是合理的有根据的。我们在前面加上否定字首 in 变成 invalid 则是指无效的，它也可以形容这个论点观点等等是站不住脚的。好，那以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Reservation. My father made a reservation at the restaurant to ensure a table for their anniversary dinner. Discourage. Despite initial setbacks, she didn't let challenges discourage her from pursuing her dream. Absolutely. Do you want to have a barbecue this weekend?
Absolutely.
Valid. Be sure to provide a valid identification card to access the restricted areas in the building. Accordingly, the project schedule changed unexpectedly, and we adjusted our plans accordingly to meet the deadline.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Kiki.
I am Roger.
See you next time.